day, everyone, and welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. Today's guest is Dean Robb. He's the owner-operator of Blueprint on 3rd, a fabulous restaurant that I used to attend, no longer can visit. How you doing, Dean?
Doing fantastic, Tommy. It's good. Thanks for having me on. I was excited when you gave me the call.
I've known you for quite a while, and I know you have a restaurant history in the city. Just for the viewing audience, just sort of tell us how you ended up in the position of being where you are now.
Well, we started off years ago in Anniston, actually. I think it's going to broadcast there. I developed a concept called the Victoria. So I was the chef operating developer of that concept from the time it was 30 rooms until it was 60 rooms, and really nice country inn and 1880s mansion. And that's how Frank Stitt and I met, actually. So we, around 1990, 91, we moved to Birmingham, and Frank and I were already friends, and he approached me about being his general manager at Bottega. And we thought that that would be, a good shot. And so we just kind of agreed to give it a trial basis sort of deal. And the trial basis lasted 17 years.
Wow.
So from 91 until 2008, and probably one of the most delightful times of my entire life. I ended up developing equity in the company. I was Frank's right-hand person for most of the time, and learned a lot and had a lot to offer to give him as well. So we had an opportunity with a consulting group that I'd done to move to Nashville in 2008, and Jenny and I did. And so we returned back to help a little bit with Giles Perkins at that time, consulting on the railroad park. I talked to George Saris and came on board to help develop the Dodios concept, and agreed to stay for a year following that to operate after development. So we did that. That took me to Keith Richards had worked with me before at Bottega, and they were growing at Tzatziki's very rapidly. So took over as it's not the COO, actually the director of operations for the company, the vice president of operations. So helped Tzatziki's go from 11 to 72 until I stepped down in 2016. And one of my people I'd met that was very inspiring, the CEO of the company, Jim Keat. We became very good friends. And when I decided to step down from there, and he'd stepped down about 6 months earlier, decided to collaborate and open a restaurant in Birmingham.
And here we are.
Looked at 25 different locations or more, drove by the Blueprint building, Birmingham Blueprint, where the name came from, saw that it was a Sloss property, and Kathy Sloss Jones and I have been friends about the same amount of time that you and I have been. And I called her up and said, what about making this a restaurant? It looks cool to me. And she was like, come to my office right now. I'm in town. So certainly no paperwork signed or anything, but about an hour later, I knew where my restaurant was going to be. And the name Blueprint on 3rd, everyone knows the building is Birmingham Blueprint. This is when downtown Birmingham was built. This is where everyone picked up their blueprints. And it is on 3rd Avenue South. So it made a pretty easy decision on the name. And here we are today.
And you've been up and running a couple of years now, 3 years?
It'll be 2 years in June, so 22 months.
And of course, in light of what's going on in the world, you're not up and running as we speak.
We're not. No, we made the decision. I made the decision when everything came out on March 16th. We actually even closed that night. I think the conversation came up with the CDC and whatnot about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and just in the essence of caution and the care for our employees, and not wanting to take any chances with any guests becoming ill or whatnot, we took it down completely.
So the reason I wanted you on the show is I've had the mayor, I've had Senator Jones, I've had the health department, but the people that I'm close with and the things I miss about what's going on in the world is being able to go out, be at your restaurant, see people, enjoy things outside, socialize, touch, feel, and just be myself, see you and let you be yourself.
I know it's usually a big hug and how you been, and shake hands, and now I like that too.
And now we can't do that. So the reason I wanted you on is, one, to let the viewing audience know how horribly affected the restaurant industry has been as a result of this. And then in the next segment, we'll probably talk about what the future holds. But
Certainly. No,
for
it's been
example,
devastating. All the groups from the James Beard Foundation to Save Our Restaurants to Southern Foodways Alliance, everyone's trying to pitch in and help. But we are, well, you're desperately down. And so we furloughed all but 2 people on our entire staff and put them, we did a GoFundMe. We've done some other things to try to be creative. We gave away all our food to them, did family meals and whatnot. And we stay in touch. We talk about once or twice a week to everyone on the staff just to make sure that they're okay and if they need any help or any guidance in any way, shape, or form. But it's awful. I mean, it affects everyone desperately. Let's put
well,
it that way.
you see what's going on in Georgia.
Yes,
So everybody's a little spooked about that.
I think with good reason.
Yeah, my guess is you wouldn't be comfortable if the gate came up next week. You still wouldn't be comfortable being open, would you?
No. And that comes from the very genre of us making the decision to close immediately. There need to be some things in place, and I do really trust Randall and Doug Jones. They're both actually friends and have been. So I'm going to trust their guidance on when they feel like it's safe to reopen inside. But truthfully, I don't think we're ready yet.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk to you about what it's going to be like when you do think it's time to open and how that's going to be affected. This is Our Issues Birmingham. I'm talking with Dean Robb at Blueprint on 3rd. Don't go away. We will be right back, I promise. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. Today's guest is Dean Robb, local restaurateur. Dean, so we talked about Atlanta opening. You have indicated we're not ready. 2 things. One, in reality, when do you think we will be ready? Even though I know you can't predict the future, when do you think we will get open?
I'm going to go with what the medical community recommends. I think part of my success is surrounding myself with mentors and people that are smarter than me in different areas. I always go by the old adage, I've never learned anything while I'm talking. So
Yeah.
I would like to listen very closely and try to understand the best ways to make this work. We do, if the shelter in place is removed, and we will probably, as a restaurant group, come back limited and start practicing to do curbside service. My next door neighbors, who are fantastic, Hop City, Birmingham, please buy a lot of things from them. They are going to help us with curbside because they already have a very operational platform going. And so we're going to open with that first, knowing that the probability of, number one, we're going to have very much reduced seating because of that. We want to have the spatial guidelines followed, if not exceeded. And so probably just when I know that we're losing 70 plus, we're only going to have about 65 or 70% of the capacity that we would have had previously. That might be one of the things with a vigorous to-go program too that keeps us alive once we open back up, because you can't be packed, and you don't want to be, for the safety of the employees and the safety of the guests. But we still have to generate revenue to be a viable business.
Yeah. So what you're saying is what I envision. There would be an existing restaurant, whether it's yours or someone else's in town, with fewer tables and better spacing between those tables.
Yes.
But
for example, Tommy, Blueprint in a regular setup sets 94 to 96 people. The new layout sets 62.
And you've already started working on that.
I've already got the diagram in. It's already been changed in open table and micros for when we open back up.
Okay. So that's reducing it a third.
Yes.
If my math's right.
That's what it's going to take it down to. The bar that normally seats 18 with 6. If we put 2 bar stools together, because mostly couples come in here, and then give 6 feet and another 2, and 6 feet and another 2, it'll take the bar capacity from 19 to 10 people.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm comfortable with that.
And so, in a perfect world, let's say the date is magically June 1st. We would operate under, you would operate under those dynamics
Yes,
until the medical people said we can maybe take another move in another direction. And as you
yes.
said, follow their lead. Uh, would this affect, I mean, you have to turn more tables? Are you just going to have to live with less revenue?
We probably live with less revenue to begin with, and and like I say, try to bring that in with the curbside service for people that are not comfortable. The most people I talk with, and there's a convivium of people that are, thank goodness, smarter than I am, that we've shot all sorts of ideas around. And there'll probably be about three groups of people. A third of the people pretty stringent on the policies for quite some time. There'll be a third of the group that will probably go out more limited, but if they have the spatial capacity and everything, the guidelines are followed, they'll feel comfortable coming to some place. And then there's going to be another third that are just going to think you can bust out and go crazy again. And we're going to have to protect them from themselves and allowing keeping the number of people allowed in the building. And we want people to come out and enjoy and have a great time. That's one reason I love doing this so much. I like a big crowd when it's just packed and people are laughing and having the best time and enjoying themselves. But that really can't happen right now.
Well, you do have an outdoor seating area.
We do. And I was able, actually, because we're going to use our upstairs level that's covered, we actually were able to increase the seating out there by about 3 tables and still have more than 6 feet in between them, because it's a nice big patio. So if we have pretty weather, we'll still be very self-sufficient as a business. Closing down inside, and private parties were a good part of our revenue. Those were good money makers for us, but really people aren't going to be gathering for private parties and whatnot, so that part goes away too. So you kind of have to wait and see how the lie of the land comes, and we will adapt because we will survive. There's no doubt about that.
We better.
I have a commitment to 40 people in their lives to have a place of employment for them, and I have a serious commitment to thousands of people that have been friends of mine over the last 20 years to make sure they're safe and to have a good time and set a place that they can come and actually maybe get away from the world for a little bit.
It's probably too personal a question. I'll ask it if you don't want to answer it. Don't. But I'm assuming you've not had an infection within your inner circle.
We have not. And to be honest, I think I'm blessed from a personal standpoint. I don't know anyone that has.
Yeah. Are you taking precautionary measures physically with sanitizing things?
Sure. Our cleaning crew actually,
and will that
they
change
have
in the
everything
future?
that they use actually kills COVID-19 on contact. It's a sanitizer that is run through the place every day. Not right now while we're closed. I'm not having everything done, but that was being done. And so the sanitizing products that we're going to use kills it on contact. We will probably have masks in the kitchen for sure, depending on what the recommendations are from doctors, whether we have masks on in the front of the house or not. Obviously, you won't have a mask on to eat. So I just don't know how that falls, where the comfort zone is. But
I may have one with a little mouth hole cut in there. I can just get it in.
It looked good on you. Everything does, Tom. Everything always looks good.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm talking with Dean Robb with Blueprint on Third, and we're talking about the devastating effect COVID-19 pandemic has had on the restaurant industry in particular. Have there been stimulus packages, financial aid from either the federal government, local government available to your industry that you've been able to access that have kept you going thus far?
Well, yes. It was very due diligence to be in the first portion of this PPP program. I guess I was the squeaky wheel. We started a week before, probably compiling everything to make it all work. And I can tell you what, don't mean to throw accolades to anybody or like the sponsor, but we worked with BB&T, which is now Truist, and Steve Vickery, and this is a huge bank, treated us like it was a little down home bank in the middle of the backwoods. I could not have had more personal treatment from any group.
I had the same
So
experience
I
with
was,
Service
I was
First.
totally, I was humbled by the amount of attention that we received, and
They worked,
and we're not anybody.
and yes, you are. They worked round the clock. They were
Yeah,
working
they did. They were on at 7 o'clock in the morning till
till
10 o'clock at
nighttime.
night, running and
And
gunning.
so you had that. How about your fellow restaurateurs? I know you're competitors, but you're also unified in the sense
Oh
that
yes.
Birmingham
We were
has
having
become
meetings with the Pepper Place restaurants,
yeah,
Chris Hastings and certainly James Lewis, with Batola and Hot and Ovenberg and whatnot, and just all the restaurants and the different businesses that are in association down here. We had created a very unique group that we were doing calls 2 and 3 times a week that involved anywhere from Mike Bodner, who is one of the biggest people in the restaurant business, period, across the country, to the Tzatziki CFO, to Jim Keat, who was my partner, who connected us with different mayors and governors in different states and whatnot. So to try to pull out, and a lot of CPAs, bankers were involved in these calls too, to try to help us ask the right questions on how to go through this process, how to make it best work for us, where we could survive as a business and also help our employees to the absolute maximum we could. So those were incredibly helpful, and we continue on with those at a lesser amount right now as people are trying to get back and operating and doing curbside and doing other things. But that there has been some local funding and whatnot through the city that I did not apply for that because I thought that we were probably in a better situation than some folks. So I was going to let that lie. There was another program that was like the 7B program. That's a $10,000 immediate loan that happened very, very quickly. And after talking to friends, I thought if we could get the PPP, I would leave that for other people too that might absolutely essentially have to have it to keep on going. So can't be a pig. It's like I tell people in this business, don't make all your money in one day. It's an investment for a long time. And so
yeah.
I've told all the restaurateurs here, we talked with Dyer and Pal at Dyron's a lot, that anything, because at least I was afforded the opportunity to speak with many, many people much smarter than myself, that if they had questions, to please call me. And a lot of the folks did. And I was glad to help them in any way I possibly could, because we're not in competition. We are just all trying to do our very best to take care of people, make them happy, and feed you.
Birmingham is really on especially the national restaurant map. Most of
we can all say thank you, Frank Stitt.
I was going to say the godfather of Birmingham restaurant business, Frank Stitt, who a lot of people tootled under, including yourself, and have gone on to open fabulous restaurants in our town. And when I go out of state to handle a case or to do something else, people are constantly talking about the food business here and the food industry here and the quality of it. And there's so many of those restaurants like that here to choose from. And to know that even though you're in the same business, there's plenty of business to go around, and that there's unification in the effort to try to get back open and get back to some degree of normalcy at some point in time.
No, I just can't imagine anyone that wouldn't want to participate and help us.
So in the future, what do you foresee? If you had to have a wish list, do you think we'll ever be back to where we were?
The number one wish list is a vaccine that could actually prove to knock this out, to make that's the number one way to get life back to what we would perceive to be normal, because nothing is normal about this. I mean, the response that people have normally, I was laughing with Jenny. She goes, what happens like normally when there's some sort of unrest and something in the United States? I said, well, first and foremost, everybody gathers together. They bust butt to win whatever war it is, to create whatever solution there is to an economy problem. And this is so the opposite, is that we can't get together and we're supposed to stay apart in order to stay well. So it's such an oxymoron time and such uncharted waters that I think it's caught a lot of people way, way off guard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're
It,
doing the
it,
best.
it turns away from every natural inclination an American has.
Well, and I think it's taught us a lot about ourselves individually. So we
Yes,
have a lot of time for self-reflection and self-awareness, and
yes,
hopefully a greater appreciation for what we had that we don't have now, and perhaps a modification of behaviors going forward that will keep things
certainly.
like this from happening. I want to thank you for coming on and being with us. This is a delightful way
Thank you, Tommy.
to
It's always a pleasure.
embellish our relationship. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Dean Robb, God bless you. Everyone
Appreciate it.
out there, please stay safe and keep staying home until Dean says the door is open.
And then eat local.
Eat local.